The real reason a married man won't leave you alone. Carl Jung. Have you ever wondered why that married man keeps orbiting your life, even though you know you shouldn't? He texts you late at night, seeks your attention in disguised ways, makes excuses to be around, but he never really leaves his wife. And the most disturbing truth? This has nothing to do with you being special or irresistible. It has to do with something much darker that he doesn't even realize is going on inside him. Carl Jung discovered that there is an invisible force operating in the male psyche, something he called the shadow, that makes married men seek forbidden connections, not out of genuine desire, but out of escape from themselves. They're not looking for you, they are looking for a lost part of them that you temporarily represent. And when you understand the psychological mechanism behind this obsessive pursuit, it's all going to make a frightening sense. Get ready, because what you're about to discover is going to completely change how you view these situations. Have you ever wondered why that married man keeps orbiting your life, even though you know you shouldn't? He texts you late at night, seeks your attention in disguised ways, makes excuses to be around, but he never really leaves his wife. And the most disturbing truth? This has nothing to do with you being special or irresistible. It has to do with something much darker that he doesn't even realize is going on inside him. Carl Jung discovered that there is an invisible force operating in the male psyche, something he called the shadow, that makes married men seek forbidden connections, not out of genuine desire, but out of escape from themselves. They're not looking for you. They are looking for a lost part of them that you temporarily represent. And when you understand the psychological mechanism behind this obsessive pursuit, it's all going to make a frightening sense. Get ready, because what you're about to discover is going to completely change how you view these situations. 1. The anima projection. Why you turned his mirror. When a married man can't leave you alone, he's not really seeing you. He is seeing an image, a projection of what exists within himself. In depth psychology, there is a concept called anima, the feminine energy that every man carries internally. It is the sensitive, emotional, creative, and intuitive part that society has taught him to repress since he was a child. As a boy, he was told not to cry, not to show vulnerability, not to be weak. So he buried it all deep inside. The problem is that this energy does not disappear just because it has been ignored. She is still alive, pulsating, asking to be recognized. And when he doesn't integrate that part of himself, when he doesn't develop his own sensitivity and emotional depth, that energy needs to find a place to exist. That's where you come into the story. You become the canvas on which he projects everything he cannot find on himself. You represent freedom because he feels imprisoned. You seem intense because he's stifled his own emotions. You are mysterious because he has never explored his own inner abysses. But none of this is really about who you are. It's about what he's lost of himself over the years, trying to be the man he thought he should be. This projection is powerful and dangerous. He will swear that you are unique, special, different from everyone else. You'll say you've never felt that before. And he really believes that because the intensity is real. It's just not you who is causing this intensity. It is his reunion with forgotten pieces of his own soul. You have become a walking symbol of everything he has abandoned to fit the mold of traditional masculinity. The saddest thing is that as long as he keeps projecting onto you, he'll never really get to know you. You are an idea, a fantasy, a temporary refuge from the prison he himself built. And when the projection starts to crack, because it always cracks when reality shows up, it goes away. Not because you have changed, but because the illusion does not hold up when confronted with a real, complex, three-dimensional person. 2. The unintegrated shadow. What he hides from himself. Every human being has a shadow. It is the set of characteristics, desires, and impulses that we repress because they do not match the image we want to convey to the world. A married man who stalks you is living a double life not only in actions, but within the psyche itself. There is the man he shows to society, responsible, committed, reliable, and there is everything he has pushed under the rug. The shadow is not necessarily bad. It contains desires for freedom, the need for adventure, the yearning for emotional intensity, the desire to be truly seen. These are perfectly human and normal things. The problem arises when these needs are completely denied. When a man builds a life based on what is expected of him, to marry, to have children, to work, to be stable, without ever stopping to ask what he really wants, the shadow grows in the dark. And the more he ignores this part of himself, the more power it gains. It's like trying to hold a ball underwater. You may succeed for a while, but eventually she'll slip away with redoubled force. Then he finds you. You become the perfect conduit for all of this pent-up energy to finally manifest. With you, he can be adventurous without taking responsibility. It can be intense with no real commitment. He can live all the parts of him that he kept locked up, but in a secret, hidden way. Obsessive stalking happens because you represent the only outlet for a pressure that has been building up for years, maybe decades. He's not looking for you for love or genuine connection. He's looking for you because you allow him to access parts of himself that he's locked away so long ago that he doesn't even remember they exist anymore. You are the temporary key to the cell he built himself. The most disturbing thing is to realize that he is not aware of it at all. He genuinely believes that he is in love, that he has found a special connection, that you are different. But the truth is that anyone who appeared at the right time representing freedom and intensity would serve the same purpose. The shadow does not choose. It only seeks manifestation. If you want to understand why a married man can't leave you alone, your energy, his patterns, and the psychology behind his obsession, watch the JUNG method. It reveals the unseen mechanisms behind this dynamic. The link is pinned in the first comment. 3. Marriage as a psychological prison. First of all, it needs to be clear, not every marriage is a prison. But when a man can't leave you alone, even though he's married, it reveals a lot about how he views his own relationship. For him, marriage has turned into a gilded cage, comfortable, safe, but suffocating. He no longer knows who he is outside the roles he plays: husband, father, provider. Many men enter marriage following a ready-made script. This is what is done after a certain age. It's the natural next step. Society applauds, the family pressures, friends are already married. So he marries without really having asked himself if that person or that lifestyle is what he genuinely wants. Years later, he wakes up and realizes that he is living someone else's life. But instead of doing the inner work of questioning his choices and taking responsibility, he seeks a lateral exit. You become the fantasy of freedom that he doesn't have the courage to truly pursue. With you, he can pretend that he is free, that he is alive, that he is still able to feel something intense. But it's all illusion because he'll never really get out of the cage. He'll just open the door for a few moments, breathe a different air, and then run back inside. Because as much as he complains about prison, it offers something he doesn't want to lose: security, predictability, social status. The uncomfortable truth is that he needs marriage as much as he needs you. Marriage offers structure and respectability. You offer excitement and escape. He has set up a system where he can have both, but without really committing to either. It's a way to outsource your happiness. If you are unhappy in your marriage, it is your wife's fault or your routine. If it's frustrated with you, it's because it can't have you completely. He always has an excuse not to look inward and take charge of his own life. Marriage becomes a prison when it ceases to be a conscious choice and becomes just an obligation that he fulfills on autopilot. And as long as he doesn't have the courage to question this structure, whether to renew the commitment for real or to leave with honesty, he will continue to look for escape valves. Today it's you, tomorrow it's someone else. Because the problem was never the marriage itself. It was the lack of courage to live an authentic life. 4. You as a symbol, not as a real person. This is the most painful truth of all. He doesn't really know you. It may seem that you know. You can say that you understand yourself like no one else, that you see your soul, that you have a special connection. But all of this is built on sand. Because to really know someone, you need real coexistence, shared daily life, seeing the person in difficult and banal moments. And he doesn't have that with you. What he has is an idealized version. You are the woman of sporadic encounters, of intense late-night conversations, of adrenaline-charged stolen moments. You're not the person who's in a bad mood on a Monday morning. It's not the one who has bills to pay, family problems, bad days. You exist in a suspended space of reality, where everything is intensity and emotion. And that's exactly what he's looking for. You have become a symbol of everything that is missing in his life. Freedom, passion, youth, unexplored possibilities. He projects characteristics on you that may not even be yours. He attributes qualities to you that are actually just the opposite of what he feels in marriage. If you feel imprisoned, you are freedom. If you feel bored, you are adventure. If you feel invisible, you are recognition. But none of this is about who you really are. The secretive nature of the relationship intensifies this dynamic. Because you only find yourself in isolated bubbles of real life, it never needs to confront the reality of who you are beyond fantasy. He doesn't see you tired from work, dealing with mundane problems, having a normal day. For him, you remain eternally in the most exciting version of yourself. And it is this edited, unreal version that he pursues. The biggest sign of this is to observe what he really knows about you. Does he know his real vulnerabilities, your genuine fears, your concrete dreams for life, or do you only know the version of you that fits his fantasy? When you try to bring reality to the conversation, to talk about your real problems, your practical needs, your desire for something solid, it disappears or changes the subject because reality breaks symbol, and he doesn't want you real. He wants you as an idea. 5. Fantasy versus reality, the game of illusion. There is an abyss between the fantasy he nurtures and the reality he lives, and that abyss is exactly where you're stuck. It feeds a story in the head where the two of you are soulmates, separated by circumstances, where if things were different, you would be together, where your love is too deep to ignore but impossible to live. It's romantic, tragic, and completely false. Fantasy works because it doesn't have to survive the test of reality. He can imagine a life with you without ever having to actually build that life. You can dream of eternal intensity without facing routine. You can idealize what it would be like to wake up next to you without really sharing space, negotiating differences, dealing with real conflicts. Fantasy is perfect precisely because it is never tested, and whenever reality threatens to creep in, when you question, when you demand definitions, when you ask for something concrete, it retreats. Suddenly he remembers his children, his wife, his responsibilities, not because these things didn't exist before, but because the reality of his legitimate needs spoils his fantasy. You stop being the refuge of problems and become another problem to be managed. This game of illusion is based on vague promises and hypothetical futures. Maybe one day when the children grow up, who knows when the situation changes? If the circumstances are different. They are eternal conditionals that never materialize because they are not meant to be concretized. They are just tools to keep you engaged in the fantasy while he continues to live the reality he has chosen. The cruelest thing is that part of him may even believe in his own fantasy. You can genuinely feel that you love you, that the connection is special, that you have something unique. But feeling is not the same as acting. Emotion without action is just fantasy. And as long as he keeps picking and choosing the reality of marriage every day while offering you only crumbs of fantasy, you're getting the clear message of where his priority is. Actions always reveal the truth that words try to hide. 6. Why he will never really choose. The question that does not want to be silenced: why doesn't he choose at once? If he's so unhappy in his marriage, if the connection with you is so strong, if he says he's never felt it before, why doesn't he take action? The answer is simpler and more frustrating than you might think, because choosing means losing, and he wants to have it all without losing anything. Choosing yourself for real would mean facing real consequences. Divorce, division of assets, children's pain, social judgment, guilt, financial instability. It would mean stepping out of your comfort zone and facing the chaos that comes with important decisions. It would mean taking responsibility for one's own unhappiness rather than blaming external circumstances. And that's hard, painful, scary work. More than that, choosing you would turn the fantasy into reality. And reality comes with everything he's running away from. Bills to pay together, everyday decisions to make, conflicts to resolve, imperfections to accept. You would stop being the outlet and become part of his real life. And there is a deep fear that when that happens, the magic will disappear. May he discover that he was just running away from himself all along. Eternal indecision also serves a psychological purpose. As long as he remains in the middle, he doesn't have to confront difficult truths about himself. You don't have to admit that you may not be as unhappy in your marriage as you claim. You don't have to recognize that you're more of a convenient escape than a true love. You don't need to look at your own cowardice and emotional immaturity. Vagueness protects his ego. And there is another crucial factor. The search is never about achieving. It's about seeking. The persecution, the tension, the forbidden. All these generate dopamine, excitement, a feeling of being alive. If he really conquered you definitively, if you became a normal couple dealing with real life, this chemistry would disappear. What keeps the obsession alive is precisely the impossibility of it being completely realized. He doesn't want to solve it. He wants to remain in the state of eternal desire because that is what fills the void temporarily. 7. The existential void he tries to fill. At the bottom of all this, there is a void. A sense that life is passing by, that he's living on autopilot, that he's lost something essential along the way. This emptiness has no specific name, it has no clear cause, but it is always there. A constant restlessness, a deaf discomfort that he cannot name or resolve. This void did not come out of nowhere. It has been building up over the years, each time he ignored a genuine desire to do what was expected. Each time we stifled an emotion to appear strong. Every time we chose security over authenticity. Each time he stopped asking himself who he really is and what he genuinely wants out of life. Emptiness is the space left when you build an existence based on external expectations rather than internal truth. And when that emptiness becomes unbearable, he needs anesthesia. It could be obsessive work, assorted addictions, extreme hobbies, or in his case, you. You become the drug that temporarily makes the emptiness disappear. When he's talking to you, when he's planning his next date, when he's living the fantasy, he forgets the feeling of being dead inside. You give meaning, emotion, instant purpose. But like all anesthesia, the effect is temporary. The emptiness always comes back, usually bigger than before, because you can't fill a hole that only he can fill by doing the necessary inner work. You can't give meaning to a life that he needs to reframe on his own. You can't heal wounds that he doesn't even recognize he has. So he always comes back, not out of love, but out of dependence. You have become the medicine that relieves the symptom but never treats the disease. The tragic thing is that as long as he uses you as an escape, he will never do the real job. He will never stop to question his life choices, to integrate the repressed parts of himself, to build an authentic existence. It will continue in the cycle: emptiness, search for external relief, temporary relief, greater emptiness. And you, without realizing it, are being complicit in his own stagnation. Because as long as you are available as an outlet, it does not have to confront the true source of emptiness. 8. How to get out of this cycle without losing your sanity. Now that you understand the psychological mechanics behind all of this, the inevitable question arises: how to get out? Because understanding intellectually doesn't make it easier to disconnect emotionally. You still feel what you feel. He still hopes that maybe, somehow, it will be different, but knowledge is the first step to liberation. The first hard truth you need to accept is that you can't save it. You can't make him see what he's doing. It cannot heal him, fix him, or be the catalyst for his transformation. This fantasy of being the special woman who finally awakens something in him is part of the same illusion that keeps everything going. It will only change if and when it does the inner work itself, and that may never happen. The second step is to stop settling for emotional crumbs. When you accept the sporadic conversations, the hidden encounters, the vague promises, you are teaching your own brain that it deserves just that. You train your emotional system to be satisfied with the minimum. And the more time passes, the harder it becomes to recognize that you deserve a full presence, a clear choice, a love that doesn't need to hide. Getting out of this cycle requires something radical: cutting it completely. There is no middle ground when it comes to emotional detoxification. Every message you answer, every date you accept, every excuse you believe is like giving another dose of the drug. You need total abstinence so that your brain can recalibrate itself, so that you can clearly see what was really going on. And finally, you need to do your own internal investigation. Why did you accept this role? What void within you was being filled by this dynamic? What patterns in your life story led you to accept partial love as if it were enough? Because here's the liberating truth: he's not the only one with an unintegrated shadow. You also have inside work to do, and only when you do that work, when you integrate your own repressed parts, when you build genuine self-worth, will you naturally repel men who offer only half of themselves. You're going to demand full presence or nothing at all, and that demand comes from a place of strength, not despair. It comes from finally understanding that you are no one's mirror. You are whole, real, and deserving of someone who sees you exactly like that.